This is an interview with Nicklas Nygren, my apologies if I've mispronounced his name, the creative director at Nifflas Games. His current project is Knytt Underground, a PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 3 game due out later this month. I'd like to thank Nicklas for taking time to do this interview. I sent Nicklas a list of questions related to Knytt Underground, and I'll be reading out my questions and his answers. The game in the background is Knytt on the PC. So about Knytt Underground, how much is it an advancement over your original Knytt games? Knytt Underground tells a more complex, quirky and personal story than my previous Knytt games. The graphical style has changed and it has a much larger world to explore with more music and content. What's it like to see your game on the PlayStation Vita? What goes through your mind when you see it on the small screen? Knytt Underground looks super pretty on the Vita. I think it works very nicely. Do you like the Vita as a platform? Is there anything you would do to improve it? To be honest, I've only played Knytt Underground on the Vita, but that experience was super nice. I'd like to play more games on Vita in the future. Did you adapt any mechanics from Knytt to the input functionality of the Vita, such as touchscreens or motion controls? Does it suit the game better than a typical PC setup? What are your opinions on the Vita's methods of input in general? The touchscreen is used to interact with the background scenery and fun stuff like that. Since the game is a platformer, traditional controls are best used to control the main character. Different games need different input devices, and while the keyboard is the best device for some types of games, Knytt Underground is definitely best played on a gamepad. An interesting detail is that more keys doesn't mean more options. When I developed the desktop version, I had 4 separate function keys for jumping, walking slow, transforming and using a power. It turns out that most testers couldn't handle the 4 function keys and kept pressing the wrong ones. My solution was to put the jump key on up arrow and walk slow on down arrow. Because I only needed 2 additional function keys, testers would grasp it better. However, having a dedicated jump and walk slow button on a gamepad is no problem at all and everybody just gets it. Also, I think it's great that the device has so many different types of input options. It allows games like Frobisher Says to rely on them all, which can be super fun. Were there any difficulties in the development of Knytt Underground on consoles? Were there any roadblocks? It was just a lot of work for Greenhill. Because I don't develop in an environment that can be ported to Vita, a whole new engine had to be made for the game to run on console. Did you have to reduce the scope of Knytt to fit on the Vita? Not at all. I didn't hold back a bit. The Vita was able to run everything I wanted to put in there. How has Sony treated indie developers in your opinion? Are they attempting to appeal to indie developers to get titles on Vita? Is there any part of the approval/development process that's harder than it should be? Since I've mainly been developing on desktop, I haven't been in touch with Sony nearly as much as Greenhill, who makes the console port, or Ripstone, the publisher. The few times I did meet with people from Sony, I was very impressed though. They seem nice to indies and offer great support. Are you going to continue to make games for Vita and other consoles if you're given the opportunity? Yes, while I intend to develop my games for desktop, I'd love to see every single game that works well on a console running on one. Any details on US release as of yet? The game can be downloaded from the PlayStation Store on 18th of December in the US, just in time for Christmas. Thanks again to Nicklas for taking the time for this interview. Check out my channel for an interview with the owner of Boss Batty about Big Sky Infinity. See you all next time.